Ronan Vale's boots crunched over the jagged stones of the canyon floor, his breath sharp in the thin alien air. The wind carried a strange, high-pitched cry, fragile and urgent, echoing from deep within a collapsed section of the cliffs. Without thinking he ran. Every instinct screamed danger, but something in the sound pulled him forward, sharper than fear. "Hold on. I'm coming," he muttered, sliding past a glowing patch of bioluminescent moss. Sparks flared from his damaged utility belt as he fumbled with a stabilizer to climb the rubble. The canyon had a way of swallowing travelers whole, cliffs crumbling without warning, and yet the sound persisted, small, desperate, almost human in its plea. Ronan reached the edge of a half-collapsed cave. Inside, faint silver scales glimmered among the dust. At first he thought it was a rock, then it twitched. He froze. A tiny creature, no bigger than his forearm, huddled in a pile of rubble. Its eyes were clouded white, unseeing, yet it shivered with awareness. The hatchling opened its mouth again. The sound pierced the canyon like a sharp blade. Ronan's chest tightened. Its whines carried intelligence, fear, and something he couldn't name, a loneliness that made his own throat ache. He crouched slowly, speaking softly. "I won't hurt you. I promise." The hatchling flinched at his shadow, then tilted its head as if sensing his voice. Ronan scanned the cave roof. Dust trembled above him. One wrong move and the whole thing could collapse. He couldn't just leave it. Time slowed and instinct took over. He reached in, digging away loose rocks with gloved hands, careful, patient. The hatchling sniffed his fingers, then bit down gently on his thumb, not in aggression but as a test. Ronan felt a spark of connection. A small victory. He lifted the creature into his chest, its tiny body trembling against him. Almost immediately the canyon groaned. The collapsed roof shifted and a boulder tumbled toward them. Ronan spun, yanking the hatchling closer. Sparks from his belt ignited the loose dust in tiny flashes, momentarily blinding him. He jumped sideways, rolling, and barely avoided being crushed. The hatchling squeaked, clinging to him, and Ronan's stomach lurched with adrenaline and fear. Once they were out of immediate danger, he pressed it against his chest, scanning the canyon walls. "We can't stay here," he said. "Not safe." The hatchling cooed softly, nuzzling his jacket, a small, fragile trust forming in the chaos. Ronan made a quick decision. He would carry the hatchling to his ship, a battered cargo shuttle perched on a ridge above. He leapt across gaps in the rocky floor, testing handholds, calculating angles. Every movement had a cost. Every mistake could mean death. He whispered reassurances, though mostly for himself. "Just a little further, we'll be safe soon." Halfway to the shuttle, another sound reached him, a metallic word, distant but growing. Predator drones. Corporate extraction teams monitored the canyon for rare alien fauna. Ronan froze, gripping the hatchling tighter. One of these drones could detect a human instantly, much less a fragile creature like this. But he couldn't drop the hatchling. Not now. Not ever. He ducked behind a jagged rock, holding his breath. The drone's searchlights swept over the canyon, shadows stretching across broken stone. Ronan knew he had seconds to act. His mind raced. Using the reflective scales of the hatchling and some loose metal plates in his pack, he improvised a temporary camo shield, angling it to scatter light. He held the hatchling beneath it, heart hammering. A drone passed, its sensors blinking near the reflection, then moved on. Ronan exhaled slowly. A small victory, but the canyon was far from safe. Every second now was a calculation, every step a gamble. The hatchling's tiny body pressed closer to him, its soft vibrations against his chest grounding him amidst chaos. Suddenly the hatchling made a sharp, high-pitched cry, different from before, urgent, commanding, almost deliberate. Ronan froze, looking down. The creature's head tilted toward the far canyon wall, and for a moment he swore the white clouds of its eyes focused somewhere beyond the stone. There was awareness there, a hint of something extraordinary, something he didn't yet understand. A boulder shifted again above, dust pouring down like rain. Ronan tightened his grip. "Okay, hang on," he said, heart racing. With a sudden burst, he leapt toward the next ledge, narrowly avoiding falling rocks. The hatchling squealed, clinging to him with tiny claws digging into his jacket. They landed hard, rolling to absorb impact. The canyon echoed with a deafening crash behind them. Ronan sat up, panting. He looked at the hatchling, who was staring at him as if understanding every word he'd spoken. A connection had formed in the chaos, raw and unspoken. Then, just as he reached for the shuttle in the distance, a flash of movement caught his eye, a shadow, massive and unexpected, descending from the canyon heights. Ronan's stomach dropped. Whatever it was coming for them, and it wasn't a drone. The hatchling hissed, a strange, almost alien sound that vibrated against Ronan's chest. Its tiny wings twitched, though they were undeveloped. Something deep inside him stirred. This wasn't just a blind, helpless creature. It had secrets. And whatever was coming for them, it wanted them both. Ronan tightened his grip and took a careful step forward, toward the shuttle, toward safety, toward the unknown. The canyon held its breath. Ronan's eyes tracked the shadow, heart hammering. The canyon's jagged cliffs seemed to shrink around him as the massive figure landed on a ledge above. Dust and rocks rattled under its weight, a deep, resonant vibration that made the hatchling squirm in his arms. He tightened his grip, feeling the fragile pulse of life against his chest. This wasn't just any predator, it was something alien, something evolved for this canyon. "Stay calm," Ronan whispered, more to himself than the hatchling. "We can get out of this." The creature moved slowly, methodically, its head tilting as if scanning the canyon floor. Its eyes glowed faintly, alien and intelligent. Ronan's mind raced. He couldn't outrun it. He couldn't fight it head-on. But he could think. He always could. He ducked behind a jagged rock and peered out, estimating angles, weight distribution, and distance. The canyon was uneven, littered with loose stones and sharp drops. Every step counted. He needed a plan. Then the hatchling stirred. Its soft whines transformed into a series of high-pitched clicks. Ronan stiffened, realizing it was more than noise, it was communication, instinctively responding to the threat. The hatchling tilted its head toward a narrow crevice nearby, guiding him. "All right," Ronan muttered. "You want to lead?" He crouched low, moving cautiously, one step at a time. The hatchling pressed against him. He kept his body behind rocks, using shadows to hide. The alien predator followed, each movement precise, almost intelligent. Ronan realized the creature wasn't just hunting, it was assessing. A loose boulder shifted under his foot, and the predator froze, eyes locking on him. Ronan's pulse spiked. He pressed the hatchling closer. Thinking fast, he grabbed a shard of reflective metal from his pack and angled it toward the creature. The light bounced off, creating a small flare. The predator recoiled slightly, hesitant. Small victory. They moved through the canyon, Ronan carrying the hatchling while dodging jagged stones and sudden drops. Each time he thought they were safe, the alien predator adjusted, keeping them in sight. It was clever, calculating, and relentless. Suddenly, a screech echoed from behind. Drone searchlights swept the canyon, their thin beams cutting through the dust. Corporate extraction teams. Ronan cursed under his breath. He now had two threats, an unknown predator above and armed drones below. The canyon was closing in. He spotted a small ledge above, partially hidden by overhangs. If he could reach it, he might gain a vantage point, stay out of the drone's immediate view, and maybe figure out a way to lose the predator. But the path was narrow, with a steep drop on one side. One slip and they'd fall. "Okay, we can do this," he whispered, more to himself than the hatchling. One move at a time. He began climbing, careful and precise. The hatchling clung to him, claws digging into his jacket, wings twitching nervously. Dust fell in tiny clouds around them. Halfway up, a drone beam swept past, scanning for movement. Ronan froze, holding his breath, every muscle tense. The hatchling clicked softly, urging him forward. He exhaled slowly and continued, moving like a shadow through a minefield. Finally they reached the ledge. Ronan set the hatchling down gently, shielding it with his body. They had a small moment of safety. The predator hissed from above, frustrated, while the drone's lights swept past the ledge, missing them by inches. Ronan's chest heaved. A micro payoff, they had survived. But relief was brief. The hatchling pressed against him, wings twitching, then suddenly leapt forward, making a sharp, piercing sound. Ronan's eyes widened. Its cry carried meaning, direction. It was trying to show him something he hadn't noticed. Following the hatchling's lead, he looked down a narrow crevice. There, half buried in rubble, was a faint glow. Ronan approached cautiously. The light pulsed softly, almost like it was alive. He knelt beside it. The hatchling's small claws tapped on the object. A pattern of light moved in response. His mind raced. Alien technology? A signal? Or something far older? Before he could investigate further, the predator leapt from the ledge, landing with a ground-shaking thud. Ronan grabbed the hatchling, sprinting along the narrow ledge. Stones tumbled down the canyon. The alien creature's roar echoed, deafening as it lunged again. Ronan reached the edge of the cliff, spotting a fallen tree trunk like rock spanning a chasm. A risky move, but it was their only path. he balanced carefully, the hatchling clinging to his chest. Each step was calculated, each breath measured. Halfway across, the predator roared again, shaking the ledge. Dust and pebbles cascaded over the side. The hatchling whimpered and Ronan's heart ached. "Almost there," he muttered. "We're almost safe." Finally they reached the opposite cliff. Ronan collapsed to the ground, gasping. The hatchling pressed its head against his shoulder, vibrating softly. A tiny victory. He had kept them alive so far. But the canyon was not done. A strange vibration pulsed from below the chasm, a low hum unlike anything he had heard. The light from the partially buried object flickered again, synchronized with the vibration. Ronan's mind raced. What was this? How was it connected to the hatchling? The predator, undeterred, began climbing down the opposite side, its glowing eyes fixed on them. And above, the drones had adjusted their path, narrowing in again. Ronan realized with a sinking feeling. He had bought only minutes, not freedom. He gritted his teeth, scanning the area. Improvisation, courage, and quick thinking would have to carry them now. The hatchling clicked urgently, nudging his hand toward the glowing object. Ronan looked down at it again. Maybe this was their chance. A tool, a weapon, or a path forward. With no time to lose, he grabbed it, tucking it carefully into his pack while keeping the hatchling pressed close. The predator hissed, the drone's searchlight spun closer, and the canyon seemed to close in around them. Ronan Vale took a deep breath, chest tight with fear and determination. He had no choice. They had to move. And whatever lay ahead, it was bigger, stranger, and more dangerous than anything he had faced yet. Ronan pressed the hatchling closer against his chest, heart still pounding from the predator's roar and the drone's sweeping lights. The glowing object in his pack pulsed faintly, almost like it was alive, reacting to the hatchling. He didn't know what it was, only that it might be their only advantage. The canyon walls echoed again, the predator's claws scraping against stone as it descended toward them. Ronan's mind raced. They couldn't outrun it, and the drones would catch them if they stayed in the open. He needed an edge, something unexpected. The hatchling whimpered, its small body vibrating against him. Then for the first time Ronan noticed a strange pattern. The blind creature's clicks and chirps synchronized with the object's faint glow. He froze. Could it be communicating? "Okay," Ronan whispered, testing the idea. "Show me." The hatchling chirped sharply, pressing its snout against the object inside the pack. The glow intensified, shifting in color and pattern. Images flickered in Ronan's mind, fragments of landscapes, alien structures, and a faint pulse of intelligence that felt alive. He staggered back, astonished. It was a language of emotion and image, not words, and the hatchling was the key. A sudden screech from the predator snapped him out of his awe. He ducked behind a rock, clutching the hatchling, realizing that whatever this bond was, it had to be leveraged immediately. The creature's instincts and the artifact together could save them, but he had no idea how. Ronan scanned the canyon, calculating risk. There was a narrow ravine leading to a half-collapsed bridge, a structure unstable, yes, but offering cover and potential escape. The drone's lights swept past it, unaware of the passage. He needed the hatchling to guide him. The blind dragon squealed, nudging Ronan's hand. He understood. Follow the light, trust its guidance. Step by careful step he advanced. The predator lunged from above and Ronan rolled aside, instinct and adrenaline carrying them both out of the creature's reach. Small victory. Halfway across the ravine, a rock gave way beneath his boot. Ronan's stomach dropped. The hatchling clung to him, claws digging in. He grabbed a jagged outcrop, swinging both of them to safety. Dust and small pebbles tumbled down below. Almost there. "Hold on," he shouted, breath sharp. The predator's roar echoed again. It wasn't just a hunter, it was intelligent, learning. And the drones too adjusted their path. They had no margin for error. Then the artifact pulsed suddenly, reacting to the hatchling's clicks. A beam of soft energy shot forward, scanning the canyon floor. It revealed a hidden path, previously invisible. A natural tunnel carved into the cliffs, illuminated faintly by alien luminescence. Ronan's eyes widened. This was the hatchling's gift. Its instincts guided them to safety, and the artifact translated its signals. He didn't hesitate. With careful, fast steps, he moved toward the tunnel, keeping the hatchling pressed to his chest. The predator swiped, claws missing by inches. Ronan rolled, narrowly avoiding a deadly strike. Another micro payoff. Skill and courage kept them alive. Inside the tunnel, shadows flickered. Ronan stopped, listening. The hatchling's clicks became urgent, almost alarmed. Something else was there, something unseen. He adjusted, holding the creature tighter. From the walls of the tunnel, faint shapes shimmered, alien symbols etched into stone, glowing faintly in sync with the artifact's pulses. Ronan traced them with his fingers. They shifted, images forming in his mind, strange alien landscapes, creatures, and a map that seemed to lead somewhere. The hatchling chirped again, pressing closer. It wasn't just blind, it could sense the energy and patterns of the canyon and the object guiding them. A sudden tremor shook the tunnel. Rocks fell from the ceiling. Ronan lunged forward, using his engineering belt to prop up the larger stones. Sparks flew as metal hit stone. Every second mattered. One slip and they could be trapped forever. The predator's roar sounded outside the tunnel, louder, angrier. The drone's searchlights spun near the entrance, scanning. Ronan realized they had seconds before both threats converged. He whispered to the hatchling, "This way, quick." The creature chirped in response, nudging him deeper into the tunnel. At the tunnel's end, a narrow chamber opened. The walls pulsed with light, and the artifact reacted strongly, glowing brightly. The hatchling stepped forward, unafraid. Ronan followed, shielding it. As they entered, the light washed over them. The chamber hummed, alive with energy. He could feel the intelligence of the place responding, not hostile but aware. Ronan knelt, examining the patterns on the walls. The hatchling's clicks guided him to a small indentation. He placed the artifact inside, and the chamber responded instantly. Light shifted, walls shimmered, revealing a hidden hatch leading further underground. A mix of awe and fear hit him. They had escaped the predator, avoided the drones, and discovered something far bigger than either of them. But he knew instinctively, this was just the beginning. The hatchling had a connection to this place, a bond Ronan barely understood, and whatever lay beyond the hatch was tied to both of their fates. The predator's distant roar reminded him of danger, but for the first time, Ronan felt a spark of hope. The hatchling wasn't helpless, it was extraordinary. Together they could survive, maybe even thrive. He glanced down at the tiny creature in his arms. Its small white eyes blinked at him, unseeing yet seeing everything. Ronan smiled, heart racing. "All right, little one, let's see where this goes." Then, from deeper in the chamber, a sudden metallic click echoed. The wall shifted. Something massive moved, something waiting. And the artifact pulsed violently, stronger than before. Ronan's stomach dropped. Whatever was inside that chamber wasn't just a tunnel. It was alive. Ronan's breath caught in his throat as the chamber shivered. The walls glowed brighter, casting elongated shadows that twisted across the floor. The artifact pulsed violently against his chest, the hatchling clinging tightly, its small body vibrating with energy. Whatever lay deeper in the chamber had awakened. A deep rumble shook the ground beneath them. Dust fell in sheets from the ceiling. Ronan's heart raced, but his mind snapped into focus. Panic would get them killed. He had survived impossible odds before. He would survive this. The chamber walls rippled. Shapes emerged from the light. Massive forms, vaguely draconic but unlike anything Ronan had ever seen. They shimmered with a strange energy, translucent yet powerful. His mind screamed at him to run, but he had no way out. The hatchling chirped sharply, a warning and a call to action. Ronan understood, they couldn't flee. They had to act. He scanned the chamber quickly. The floor was uneven, broken in places, but there was a raised platform near the center. The artifact pulsed strongest there. It seemed to respond to the hatchling. Perhaps it could help. "Stay with me," Ronan whispered, gripping the hatchling close. He sprinted toward the platform, dodging falling debris as the massive shapes moved closer. One of them extended a shimmering limb toward him. He rolled aside, narrowly avoiding a strike that could have crushed him. Small payoff, his reflexes and quick thinking kept them alive. Once on the platform, he placed the hatchling down carefully, shielding it with his own body. The creature chirped, pressing against the artifact. The energy surged. Light shot from the artifact in beams that connected with the hovering shapes. They recoiled, pulsing in response, almost communicating with the hatchling. Ronan's mind raced. The artifact was a conduit, the hatchling its key. If he could synchronize the energy, maybe they could neutralize the threat, or at least buy time. He adjusted the device, angling it toward the largest figure. Sparks flew, energy crackling. The shapes recoiled again, confused, unsure. The hatchling clicked rapidly and Ronan followed its lead. Together they moved in a rhythm, the human's hands manipulating the artifact, the hatchling guiding through instinct and something deeper, almost telepathic. Each pulse of light pushed the massive forms back, forcing them to retreat slightly. A small victory, but fleeting. Then the ground beneath the platform trembled violently. The shapes surged, breaking through the temporary barrier. Ronan realized they had seconds before everything collapsed. He looked at the hatchling. "We finish this now." The creature leapt onto the artifact, claws digging into it. Light exploded from the chamber walls, a shockwave of energy that lifted Ronan off his feet. He held onto the hatchling, feeling the raw power of the chamber flow through them both. The massive shapes screamed in alien tones, retreating under the energy surge. Dust and light swirled, disorienting him. Ronan shouted, adrenaline and fear mixing. "Hold on." He adjusted the artifact, aligning it with the pulsing light patterns on the walls. The hatchling chirped urgently, guiding him with clicks and soft vibrations. Together they manipulated the energy and the chamber responded. Then, a massive shadow lunged from the far side, a final desperate strike from the largest figure. Ronan rolled with the hatchling, slamming the artifact against the floor. A wave of light surged outward, striking the shadow directly. It hissed, flickering, then dissipated into a cascade of glowing particles. Silence followed. The chamber dimmed, the walls returning to a soft, steady glow. The hatchling pressed against Ronan, trembling but unharmed. Ronan's chest heaved. They had survived. The massive shapes had been driven back, neutralized, for now. Ronan sank to the floor, gripping the hatchling close. You were incredible," he said, voice hoarse. "I don't know what you are, but we made it." The hatchling cooed softly, vibrating against him, a small, tender payoff after the chaos. He looked around. The chamber was still alive with faint energy, pulsing in response to the artifact. It was clear this place wasn't just a tunnel or a trap. It was a living system, connected to the hatchling, waiting for something. He didn't understand it yet, but he knew it was important. A sudden, sharp vibration ran through the chamber. The artifact pulsed violently, stronger than before. Ronan's stomach dropped. Something else was coming, something even bigger. The hatchling hissed, wings twitching, pressing against his chest as if warning him. Ronan took a deep breath, determination flooding through him. He had survived impossible odds before. He had saved the hatchling. Together they could face whatever came next. He adjusted the artifact once more, holding it like a shield and a key. From the shadows of the chamber, a low hum began, different from before, more deliberate, intelligent. The light on the walls shifted, forming symbols and shapes that seemed to pulse with the hatchling's energy. It was communicating with them, but in a way that Ronan couldn't yet comprehend. He glanced down at the hatchling. Its small white eyes blinked at him, unseeing yet aware. He smiled faintly, a mix of fear and awe. "All right, let's see what this really is," he whispered. A massive shadow stirred again, larger and more solid than before, moving beneath the wall's glowing patterns. The hatchling clicked sharply, nudging Ronan toward the far end of the chamber. He followed, understanding instinctively. This was their path forward and their only chance. Ronan tightened his grip on the hatchling and the artifact, heart pounding. The chamber pulsed with life, energy, and intelligence beyond his comprehension. They had survived the immediate danger, but whatever lay ahead, it was far larger, far stranger, and far more dangerous than anything he had faced. Ronan's chest heaved as the chamber pulsed around him. Dust and faint glowing particles floated in the air, shimmering in rhythm with the artifact pressed to his chest. The hatchling clung tightly, its tiny claws digging into his jacket. For the first time he allowed himself a slow breath. They had survived the impossible. The massive shadow from before had vanished, leaving only a faint shimmer in the wall's glow. Ronan looked around, noticing the chamber itself had changed. The symbols etched into the stone now formed clear patterns, almost like a map. He knelt beside the hatchling, tracing one with his gloved fingers. Images flashed in his mind, forests, mountains, rivers of light, and structures unlike anything human-made. The hatchling chirped softly, pressing its head against him, almost proud. He realized something profound. This chamber had been waiting for them. For him. For the hatchling. It wasn't a trap or a test. It was a sanctuary, a place that recognized intelligence and courage, that responded to empathy and determination. Humans could survive in impossible odds, and the hatchling's bond with him had activated the chamber's response. Small payoff, his bravery and quick thinking had earned them a safe haven. Ronan slowly stood, keeping the hatchling pressed to his chest. He examined the walls more carefully. Tiny tunnels branched off from the chamber, each glowing faintly. The artifact pulsed in response. He understood, it was a guide. He could lead the hatchling to safety, to a place where it could grow and perhaps where others like it might exist. The hatchling clicked again, then flapped its tiny wings. It was restless, curious. Ronan smiled faintly. "I think you like it here," he said softly. "This could be your home." The creature nudged his hand, soft vibrations against his skin. The bond between them had deepened, stronger than words could describe. Small, quiet payoff. They had not only survived but connected in a way neither had expected. But there was still the question of the outside world. The predator was gone and the drones had retreated, but the canyon beyond remained dangerous. Ronan needed to plan a route, a path that would let them leave if necessary. The artifact glowed in rhythm with the hatchling, almost like a heartbeat. He realized it could help them navigate the canyon safely. With careful steps, Ronan moved toward one of the tunnels, holding the hatchling close. Every step was measured, every movement deliberate. The chamber hummed faintly as if approving. The hatchling chirped softly, nudging him in directions he hadn't considered. It was guiding him, not out of fear but with intelligence and instinct. Ronan felt a swell of pride. Humanity's resilience, empathy, and courage had earned them this moment. As they explored, a gentle wind swept through the tunnels. It carried a faint scent of alien flora, of life beyond the barren canyon they had escaped. The hatchling's wings twitched excitedly. Ronan realized that this sanctuary was more than a hiding place. It was alive, nurturing, perhaps even intelligent. They weren't just surviving, they were becoming part of something larger. Ronan paused on a ledge overlooking a subterranean forest of glowing plants. The hatchling clambered onto the edge, peering down with unseeing eyes that somehow seemed aware of every movement. The light from the artifact bathed them both, creating a moment of quiet triumph. Small payoff. They had reached safety and for the first time the hatchling could explore freely without fear. Yet even in this moment of relief, Ronan sensed the story wasn't over. The chamber's symbols pulsed faintly, forming a pattern that seemed to point beyond the sanctuary, deeper into the planet, or perhaps beyond it. He glanced at the hatchling. Its tiny head tilted toward the symbols, almost urging him onward. Ronan smiled faintly, chest tight with anticipation. "Looks like this is just the beginning," he murmured. The hatchling chirped in response, its small vibrations pressing against his chest like a heartbeat of courage. They had survived, they had grown closer, and together, they had discovered something extraordinary. Humanity had shone through. Intelligence, compassion, and determination had carved a path through danger and fear. He looked down at the hatchling, white eyes blinking at him. "You're not just a survivor," he whispered. "You're extraordinary. And maybe, so am I." The hatchling clicked, nudging him toward a narrow passage glowing faintly in the distance. The artifact pulsed strongly. Ronan's mind raced with possibilities. Whatever lay ahead was unknown, powerful, and dangerous, but they would face it together. He had learned to trust the hatchling's instincts and their shared courage. They had survived drones, predators, and a chamber that seemed alive. Now they were ready for whatever came next. The canyon beyond waited, dangerous yet full of potential. The artifact hummed in his hands, pulsing in rhythm with the hatchling's small clicks. It was a promise and a warning. The universe was bigger than either of them had imagined, full of mysteries that demanded courage and intelligence to face. Ronan adjusted the hatchling in his arms and stepped toward the glowing passage. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility, hope, and determination. The sanctuary had given them life, and together they would explore what came next. Above, faint echoes of the canyon still rumbled, reminders that danger was never far away. But for the first time Ronan felt prepared. Humanity could survive, adapt, and protect those who could not protect themselves. His heart swelled with pride, and the hatchling's soft vibrations pressed against him like reassurance. A final, gentle pulse from the artifact lit the passage ahead, and the hatchling chirped sharply. Ronan smiled. "Let's see what's waiting for us."